Hello, everybody, and welcome to the LFC Transfer Room live stream with myself, Kings, Carter, and Race. Thank you guys so much for joining us on this Tuesday evening, just before some Champions League football kicks off, just about a half an hour time, with Barcelona and PSG playing, and Atletico and Borussia Dortmund playing as well. But the games that we're more interested in will be on tomorrow evening, with Man City playing Real Madrid and Arsenal obviously playing Bayern Munich. Both of those games having ended in a draw. But here we are. It's a Tuesday. We didn't have any stream yesterday for obvious reasons, with it being the 35th anniversary of the Hillsborough disaster. I myself was at the game on Sunday. Very touching tribute that was held in the Kop, where all the fans that were in the Kop held up their little the sort of squares to project the image of the 97 surrounded by white and yellow and red, and it was quite touching, quite beautiful. Credit to the Palace fans as well, who any team could have come in there and made a mockery of it if they wanted to, but credit to the Palace fans, they stayed silent throughout the whole thing. They were fantastic during the game themselves as well. A lot could be said for what our fans were like in the stadium on the day, but the less said about that, the better. But as it stands at the moment, Aston Villa have kind of given us a bit of a favour and thrown us a small bit of a lifeline. We're still 2 points behind City, and we all know what City are like at the end of the business end of the season. Arsenal fans saying that City are going to lose a game. Oh, you sweet innocent fools. We've been here too many times, sadly, to break it to you guys. But if any team has taught me that impossible is possible, it's this team, and I have all the faith in the world in them going forward. And you may call me crazy for that, but call me crazy. I don't care. A couple of things I wanted to address. Just to make sure that you like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. It really does help out the channel, and we really do appreciate it. And also to make sure that you have your notifications on for all future streams and videos so that you never miss out. We will be live again later on this evening from 2 a.m. UK time and 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for our American stream for Star Stripes and Anfield Nights. So make sure you have your notifications on for all of that. And then we'll be back again tomorrow for our pre-game stream with James before our Europa League clash with Atalanta on Thursday. So we'll be back on again tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. UK time. But there is a couple of comments that have been made here, and there was an awful lot of negativity that was around the Twitter sphere and everything like that, ourselves included. We were a little bit negative about things and that, and us being a very measured, reasonable, and very level-headed fan base that we are, definitely don't overreact to anything crazy like that. But I just have to address it in a couple of the comments here that have come out. It's you have Paolo Maldini here mentioning to get rid of Kelleher and take Nunes, Gomez, and Robbo with him, which is a bit laughable, to be perfectly honest. We then have A. Roshan here to take Nunes with you, highly overrated. And yeah, and then we have C here, like Porky Pig, saying to get Robbo out. And I'm not Paul, don't see this is the funniest one of the lot, to be perfectly honest with you. Don't do that to me. Bazunu is half the player that Kelleher is. You're a right old comedian there, aren't you, Paul? But I do need to address some of these things because people are slandering our players, and I'm noticing an awful lot of it, and I'm sure everybody else is. And people that have, and this is not to discredit anybody that would have any criticism, and valid criticism at that, of the players that we have at the moment. Is there criticism to be had? 100% there is. We've been off our form the past couple of games. We've been having multiple shots on target and even off target, and multiple chances per game when we're just not finishing. But Nunes seems to be the scapegoat, and that seems to be the running trend across all of Twitter, unfortunately. I'm not sure why you would say Gomez or Andy Robertson out as well, considering against Palace, Andy Robertson looked like he was the only guy that had a bit of heart in him. And as for Joe Gomez, he's been a Swiss Army knife. I'm not sure why you'd want to get rid of him either. He's really come into his own, and I was one that said to sell him at the start of the season, and he's made me eat my words. And then in people saying to let Kelleher go as well, and I'm kind of like, why? He's the best number 2 in the world. He could very easily sit behind. It's a start for multiple teams in the Premier League at the moment. Nottingham Forest are currently interested. We rejected a bid for £20 million earlier in the season, and that was before his run of form. He's now played the equal amount. I think he's played more games now this season than Alisson has. He was the sole reason that we won the Carabao Cup, and you can argue with me all you want about that. He is the reason we won that Carabao Cup. and it just is. It's just I can't suffer any unwarranted negativity. Negativity is fine and everything like that, but unwarranted negativity where it's just going straight at the players and having no basis of an argument to back it up, it's not something that I can tolerate, unfortunately, myself. But that's enough rambling from me. Paul has put in here an honest question, and I've done enough rambling on the situation. I'll give you my short answer, and then I'll pass it around to Kings, Carter, and Race as well, and we will discuss this as well. So Paul's thrown in a question here, an honest question: for the same price, would you sell Darwin and buy Isak? Newcastle need the money. Well, they don't really need the money. I think they're fine this summer, but I do see where you're coming from in that. Realistically, I would not sell Darwin and buy Isak. Isak is too injury prone. He's on a run currently at the moment, but it's like Darwin's in multiple competitions and has multiple contributions both through assists and goals. And myself and Charlie do go back and forth and say, you want your striker to score goals, but at the same time, I'm like, a goal is a goal. Whether it comes off Darwin Núñez's boot last or not, a goal is a goal. That's the way that I look at it. Before I let King's Race and Carter answer that question as well, Jen, thank you so much for your £2.99 with the super sticker. Really, really, really appreciate it. It always goes back towards the channel to make better content for you guys. As always, Jen, it's very, very much appreciated. But Carter, I'll come to yourself first on this one. Honest question: for the same price, would you sell Darwin and buy Isak? Newcastle need the money. Paul then follows it up by saying that Isak would not have missed those sitters. He's the most clinical in the Prem. I disagree with that myself, but I'll open the floor to yourself on that.
I mean, Isak actually has been like quite inconsistent at times. I think there was a season at Sociedad where he got like around 15 to 20 and then he went right back down to 5 or 6. So he's not regularly consistent. And I also think the fact that Newcastle have been quite like awful this year in terms of like they had loads of injuries, and instead of having to play like lots of like deep blocks and like 5 at the backs and defensive teams, a lot of teams are willing to go at Newcastle. And I think, honestly, it feels like every Isak goal is the same goal. It's him running like onto a through ball and he's just getting one-on-one with the goalkeeper where he gets all this time, he gets to like set himself, he gets to put it in the corner. Whereas you could argue Isak's a big skinny guy. Would he be able to play like Núñez does? Like, would he get the goal against Forest? I don't think so. I don't think Isak's that kind of player. I think whilst there's all these like sort of transition moments and stuff, it really suits him. But I think Núñez is much more well-rounded. And if Paul's saying about being clinical, it's a lot easier like being clinical when you have maybe under 3 shots a game. But when Núñez is having 5 shots, you're not going to, no matter how many shots you take, Messi scored maybe 1 goal every game in like 1 year. If you like Núñez, for the amount of shots he takes, he's not going to score a goal a game or more than a goal a game. So he can't be as clinical as those guys who take less shots. So I think it's a bit of a, when people say that, I think it's almost a compliment because he has so many shots and he's always effective. Whereas Isak, maybe he hasn't had the same sort of struggles that Núñez has of coming in and playing defensive teams and that kind of thing. So I think it's all well when it's easy for Isak, but let's say when Newcastle get better and they're playing more, like teams go and sit against them, then I'll see how good Isak is, I think, in my opinion. But I don't think he's at Núñez's level.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the biggest things as well, Race, is how Newcastle play. They're very open, and Isak really only seemed to thrive the past couple of weeks when they played against teams that are trying to go at Newcastle and leave themselves open at the back. Spurs being the ideal candidate for that, with their centre-backs being sat in the halfway line. But to Paul's point, would you straight swap, sell Núñez and buy Isak for the same price? Straight swap, would you do it yourself, or are you still in the camp of believe in Darwin?
No, yeah, I wouldn't do it. I'd still keep Núñez. And another thing too with Isak is he only has 1 assist in the league this year. You know, he doesn't really offer much, with creativity and stuff. And and there's something to say of quite, yeah, maybe you do want a striker that just finishes off goals or whatever. Núñez has struggled with that, but I'm of the belief of I want every single player that's on the pitch to have some versatility, have some other avenues of making an impact in the game other than just scoring a goal. And yes, a goal is a goal, but I think back to kind of like how Haaland sometimes in big games and creating chances, he doesn't really do much with that. He's great at finishing off goals, no doubt, but In terms of, like I think like last week against Madrid in the Champions, like what did he like? I don't think he really had a good game at all. Like he didn't get any of those goals. He didn't really do much in it. I mean, I fear that Isak is kind of on that, would be on that path towards, when there's a game of you're struggling to create chances. He's not really going to be helping with that. He just kind of sit up top, wait for balls to come to him, and then pounce on them. But if teams are sitting in a low block, I mean, how is he gonna affect the game in that? Nunez, for all the hate that he gets, missing big chances again, he still gets a lot of big chances, and I'd rather have a striker that gets those big chances than one that doesn't. And so, yes, he obviously needs to improve on his finishing. I think we can all agree on that. But he still has, a number of assists this year. I can't remember the specific number, but it's he's helping in that regard as well. He's not the the false nine that Firmino was, but he's still creating chances and laying off to other players and stuff. So Isak is just kind of it wouldn't be a good fit for us now. Of course, new manager, what kind of tactics do they put out there, and what kind of do they want the striker to play? But I still would want Nunez as our number 9 up there. His pace is still incredible. He's a big fast guy, on headers too, and physically he's all that what you want in a striker. So for him, it's just about nailing down the mental side of the game, the finishing, the decision making. I think he's just kind of in a space right now where you just get in one of those runs of bad form, and as a number 9, as a striker, those mistakes are going to be magnified because you are leading the line and you're the one to create the goals for us. And so I think every striker kind of goes through this, and it's just the nature of the position. There's going to be some criticism, and we know he's got a bit of a temper. He likes to get hot, and show his emotions out there. I mean, I don't think that's a bad thing. I mean, it's good to have a striker that that's passionate and wants to that's what you want to see from professional. You want to see it that care like that. So yeah, I wouldn't entertain Isak, like you said, some of the injury problems, and how's he going to look in our system, and kind of a skinny guy as well. I mean, there's some questions there. So I'm not losing hope in Nunez. He's still relatively young player. He's still got his best days ahead of him, and so I think you just keep your faith in Nunez. I'm not looking to sell him off at any point. I mean, unless there's just a completely abysmal season, but that really hasn't been the case. He's been improved this year. I mean, it's just this last few month or so that's maybe been rough for him. But right before this, we were saying, oh man, look at Nunez. He's looking so good out there. He's doing everything right. He's had some wonderful strikes this year as well. So he has that in his locker. It's just a matter of being more consistent with them and converting them, and that just comes with just keep playing them. Just try to get over that yourself. It's kind of like a bad shooter in basketball. You get cold from shooting, from 3-point range and whatnot. You just got to shoot through it. You just got to keep going through that, and then eventually you'll hit the ground running again. I think you're muted, Steven. Or no? Is that just me?
I can't hear him either.
No.
Oh, we can't hear him? Nope. I think we lost him. Oh, boy.
Okay, can everybody hear me now?
There you go.
Something's gone up with the mic. I just swapped the mic there. So what I was saying is a shooter's going to shoot, and the way that I like it is that Darwin could miss 9, but he won't drop his head when the 10th comes. He'll still shoot it with the same conviction. And a striker that has that and has the memory of a goldfish, like Steph Curry would when he's playing basketball, he might miss 9 in a row, but you can guarantee he's going to shoot that 10th the same way that he shot the previous 9, and it will go in. That's just the way that I look at it. And to give you the numbers on that race, he has 18 goals and 13 assists. He is our highest assister. Our striker is our highest assister this season, which is absolutely madness. Kings, it's one of those. It's the easy target, and he was the easy target last season, and he seems to be the easy target this season. And just so that everybody knows as well, Nunez has not gone more than 2 games without a goal contribution this season in all competitions. The first time it was the first 2 games of the season where he barely played. The next time it was 2 games was about 3 weeks ago. Any other time than that, it's been a goal or an assist per week. If not, he's had a week off and then he scored again the following week or got an assist again the following game. Not even week, game. Kings, it seems to be that he's the easy target. And when we're all kind of on the down low like this, it's just we all turn to the easy target realistically, isn't it?
Firstly, I will say that both Carter and Race, I'm sure they're in my head because basically what they said was what I was going to say. But they covered everything, to be honest. But he is an easy target because he misses, and all strikers miss. Salah's been off the boil. You know, he missed a few in the last game. It just becomes the norm to pick on somebody. That's what it becomes. So they go, somebody highlights it on social media, and we all know social media. We all use it, but it can be a place where negativity does breed quite quickly. If you put a post down and they've had a bad game, that's it. You know, it's like you'll get 100 comments straight away on it. And it's like it's not always the case. Like you said, if he's doing goals or assists every other game, etc., he's doing something right. Ray said, you know, his head never drops. He carries on. I've always liked that about him. And yes, he is missing chances. And sometimes you could throttle him and think, you know, why didn't you just put that away? It was easier to hit the goal than miss, you know, and then miss it. But it was also said earlier that, you know, it depends as well on the manager. Now, I'm not having to go at Klopp, but look at Salah when he played for Chelsea. They let him go and they said, he's not what we need. He didn't do anything. Goes to Roma, rebuilds his career, comes to Liverpool. It's like, wow, the stats speak for themselves. And I'm not saying that Klopp's a bad manager. I love Jurgen Klopp. But he might not be perfect now for Núñez. Another manager might come in and go, right, what I want you to do is tweak your game and do this. And he could just set him off. And then the next 5 years, we're going, well, he's world class. He scores every game, etc., just like Salah did. So it's timing. His attitude seems to be right. But it's a few things. You can't pick on one thing goes, he just misses. It can be a contribution of things coming up in the game and a combination of how the game's going in itself. You know, if everybody else is having an off day, like maybe the Atalanta game and the game of the weekend, then it can rub off on your strikers just as bad. And like I said, none of them scored. Now I know we were all praying that one went in or 2 went in at least, you know, to keep us in the race. But you have them days that it just doesn't go your way, and it's not fair to pick out one particular player because there was quite a few in that team that just it didn't work on the day. Where the buck stops, I don't know, but it shouldn't be just at his feet, I don't think.
Yeah, the way that I look at it, and some of the Paul Smith mentions here, we should have never signed Núñez based on one good season in Portugal. Cool. So if he had 2 good seasons and then we had to sign him for double, where were we then? Because we never would have gotten him. And stop using stats to try and defend a mediocre striker. Okay, well, come at us with a different argument. So, like, it's not as the eye test. You mean the eye test where he runs his bollocks off every game and dies on that pitch every game? Paul, if you're not a Liverpool fan, you can leave, essentially, and that's the way that I look at it. It's Haaland is only better in his goal scoring. That's it. That is it. Haaland doesn't make Man City better. Núñez makes Liverpool better. Haaland, when he came in, Man City scored the same amount of goals that they did in the previous season. He did not improve them. Núñez has improved us this season. It's as simple as that. And I can just see all of the trolls coming in now. This is beautiful. I love it. But it's as simple as that. And for those of us that are still on the Núñez train, it's and here, if we swap Núñez with Haaland, not a hope. No way. We become worse. We don't have the same pressing up front. Haaland sits on the 6-yard box and gets his chances that way. He doesn't press. He doesn't do anything off the ball. He doesn't create. He puts the ball in the back of the net, I will grant you that. But if you take a look at last season and this season and how they compared, So last season, Haaland came in and lit the world on fire. No problem. Props. Well done to him. Núñez came in and struggled. But then look at the overall teams. Liverpool struggled quite mightily, and behind Haaland was Bernardo Silva, Kevin De Bruyne, and a world-class midfield. Now you take a look at this season, where Núñez has a way better midfield behind him, with Endo, McAllister, Jones, Szoboszlai, Elliott. The names go on there. All of a sudden, Núñez is matching Haaland in production. Núñez is only behind Haaland by 5 goal contributions this season alone in all competitions. And if anybody mentions the fact that one played in Europa League and the other one played in Champions League, Haaland's goals in the Champions League, 4 of them came against young boys. 1 was an assist against Red Star Belgrade, and the other 2 goals were against RB Leipzig and Copenhagen. Since then, nothing. He's done nothing. He's shrank. And okay, Paul, work rate isn't important in a team that presses the shit out of everybody. Sure, no problem. Tell me you don't watch Liverpool without watching Liverpool. Stats mean nothing. Wake up, idiot. The results speak louder than winning goals, and Núñez has brought a couple of stats get real. I'm loving this. But look, goose step Scouser, if you're going to call yourself that with LFC in it, no problem. It makes no difference to me. Paul here, as he mentions, scored 50 last year. City scored the same amount of goals as the team as they did the year before. They didn't improve. Núñez can be as polarizing as he wants to be. He is my striker and he is Liverpool's striker. And if you can't back him, don't support the team. As was it Bob Paisley or Bill Shankly that said it? If you can't support us when we lose, don't support us when we win. Simple as that. And what I'm seeing is a lot of people that have only started supporting Liverpool in 2017 in the comments here. So that's the way that I look at it. God help you if you've seen us back in like the early 2000s before 2005, and then other than the 2 runs we had between 08 and fucking 2013, Jesus Christ, you'd all be on suicide watch. But we're going to move away from Núñez because we could talk about this for the hour if we wanted to, and I don't want to talk about it for the hour because we have plenty of other things to get to. And the first one is in relation to somebody actually possibly leaving in the summer in Caoimhin Kelleher. Now, it started the season, people were thinking, oh, maybe we should move on from him, bring up one of the younger guys. He needs first team football. He's a great number 2, but he's really wasted, sat behind Alisson. Then he had a couple of blunders early on in the season in the Europa League games. And then when Alisson went down injured, we all dreaded what was coming next. And we all thought, oh, this season's gone. Some of us probably thought this. I myself didn't because I'm biased. He's Irish. But up steps Caoimhin Kelleher, 24-year-old Irish kid from the south of Ireland in Cork, and quite literally fills Alisson Becker's shoes. And I would argue, and I think Neil has said this as well quite controversially, Caoimhin Kelleher is better with his feet than Alisson is. He's not a better keeper, but he's better with his feet. And if you watch the game, you would not be able to tell that he's right-footed because he's able to ping a pass with both his left and his right foot to wherever he wants on the pitch, even under pressure. And as a keeper, that's something to be said. But Kings, he is one of those that is just, it's like a fringe player. He could be a number 1, but only for the fact that he has the greatest keeper in the world sat in front of him. He's not our number 1. He has some limitations in relation to his decision making, but keepers peak an awful lot later. He's going to enter his peak in the next 2 or 3 years. Would you like to try and keep him and maybe sign him to a new and increased deal? Adrian's money, perhaps 60 grand a week. How he's getting that. Or would you be happy if a particular offer came in? And what offer do you think would be fair for him, considering that we rejected 20 million earlier on in January?
Firstly, price-wise, I think you could easily add on 10 million extra to that. But as in terms to selling him, I wouldn't even consider it. It's not even on my mind to sell him. He's been fantastic, like you said. You know, he has, or maybe he's on the same now. Alisson's come back, but he played more games than Alisson, and he done fantastically well in the run that he's just been on. And like you said, he got us the Carabao Cup with the saves he put in there. He seems older than his actual years are. He's very composed, or mainly, composed. He's probably got, another 15 years as a goalie? Do you know what I mean? He's got, because they can go till they're 35, 40 quite easily. And I think he's got so much more to learn, but if he's this good now, then he genuinely could be Liverpool's goalie, maybe when Alisson does leave. I do look and think, why are people, maybe wanted him to go somewhere else? Because we'll be left with Adrian otherwise, unless they bring in somebody else who's prepared to just sit on the bench, and there isn't many. Now, he may get to the summer and decide that himself and say, you know what, I actually think I've proved myself and I want to go. And that's different to the club saying we want to sell you. Then there's a conversation to be had then. But if he's content to be Alisson's number 2 and continue to learn and grow at Liverpool Football Club, then I wouldn't consider selling him at all. I would definitely keep him. He is a very, very good keeper for his age.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. It's as you said, he could play for another 15 years, and keepers peak an awful lot later. But the issue isn't more. I should have probably phrased the question a little bit differently. The issue isn't will we sell him, but will he want to leave? And you kind of answer that towards the end of it. That probably would have been the way. Carter, I'll throw the same question to yourself. If Kelleher comes to you and says, "I'd like to leave," would you consider selling him, or would you try and argue the point and just explain to him, look, we'll pay you more, we'll give you Adrian's salary, he's going, we'll up you to 60 grand a week, you'll have Carabao Cup and FA Cup, and any games that Alisson needs a break in, that if he does get injured, because it is starting to become maybe a bit of an issue now with Alisson, especially with hamstrings for a keeper, because how much they use their legs. You may be worried, and you don't want to have somebody that's that there's a massive drop off behind. Steve here mentions to loan him out. I don't think that would actually. Maybe it would, but then you're kind of left handcuffed when it comes to a backup keeper. What do you think, Carter? Are you going to let him go and honor his wish, or are you going to try and fight and maybe give him Adrian's salary to keep him?
Personally, if this might be controversial, but I'd give him a new contract. I'd just say, look, here's your contract. If we get a bid of 35 million pounds, you can leave. Like, you can go. Because I think he's, right now for Liverpool, it's like wrong person, wrong time. Like, right person, wrong time. I mean, he's always going to be the bridesmaid, never the bride. Because as soon as Alisson's fit, he takes it. If Alisson was 5 years older, yeah, sweet. But I think, apart from like the top sort of 4 or 5 goalkeepers in the world, there are so many goalkeepers that there's not that much difference between the 20th best goalkeeper in the world and the 40th. Like, there's not that much drop in performance. So I just think, whilst he's maybe got maximum value, I'd sell him. Maybe you put a buyback clause, or you put a sell-on clause, because if we sold him to Brentford, who's to say 3 years' time Chelsea buy him for £70 million? But I just think right now you have Alisson. There's definitely an older goalkeeper who probably, if we thought maybe one of the young lads was going to be ready in a few years, we could go out and make like an Endo type goalkeeper signing, like maybe like someone like, not Kevin Trapp, but if Kevin Trapp, he's a bit older, who's at like Frankfurt, there'd be someone who'd be willing to come and sit. And I just think whilst he's got this value, I would move him on. I just think also for him as a player, like, it's who was the guy who, I'm a bit young for this, but who was the guy who signed for Chelsea, like the Italian fellow, he was like Spurs' goalkeeper and he just sat on the bench. And it's just, I think he needs to go and play. Like, he's never going to be able to show how good a goalkeeper he is until what, 7-8 years time, like consistently. Because as soon as next year comes round, all the fans of the other teams are going to go, he's all right. He's not better than Ramsdale. Like, I just think he needs to go. For himself, he needs to go.
It's the selfish way to look at it, realistically. Like, me as an Irishman, he has the makings of one of the best keepers in the world, and he could very easily be Ireland's number 1 for the next 15 years. And in order for him to take that next step, he has to leave my club. And I'm very, very, very torn about it. And Steve mentions here, like, he's a better ball distribution than Alisson Becker. Loan him out and make him LFC number 1 when Becker leaves in 2 to 3 years. Alisson Becker might not leave for 5 or 6 years with how keepers are at the moment. Like you look at Buffon. Buffon could play till he's 40. And I 100% agree with you. He's too good to be a number 2. Upgrade his contract, 100% agree. And Heather mentioned here that Espirito Santo is a huge fan of him. And if he keeps his job, it's very likely that Nottingham will try another bid. But of course, Adrian will also be leaving this summer. The thing I have about Forest, they could be going down. And if they go down, I can guarantee you Kelleher's not going anywhere near them. Kelleher wants Premier League football. If he is to leave, he wants to be a number 1 at a Premier League club. Carter's mention of Brentford will be a good shout. Race, the same question to you. Kelleher has stepped up and he won us a Carabao Cup with his performances. If not for him in that game, we would have been down 3 or 4-0 by half time and would have lost 6-0 and it would have been a whitewash. And Paul asks here, is he better than Ramsdale? I'd argue yes, in my own opinion, I would. And that's taking my Irish bias hat off. I think he genuinely is a better keeper. He's very much way better with his distribution and he doesn't make the same blunders. But he made them earlier on, but after a run of games. Ramsdale, like, you can't be better than somebody when they literally go out and try and replace you immediately. And Ramsdale has been trying, and nobody's come in for Ramsdale at all that we know of, but people have come in for Kelleher. Race, the question that I'll throw to yourself is, like, Kelleher, keep, let him leave, or how would you negotiate that come this summer? What would be your strategy with that?
Well, I think you do everything you can to convince him to stay. You just give him that, there is an agreement that Alisson is the number 1 for this club, and Alisson has many years left as our number 1, barring a huge dip in form or nagging injuries. And like you mentioned, he has had some injury issues over the years. I mean, he's had some absences. I think one time he, like a goalkeeper injury. I think it was his wrist or arm or shoulder or something that kept him out, and the hamstring this year. He had 2 different injuries this year that kind of kept him out. And I'm thinking back to Kelleher earlier this season when Alisson had that first injury. He didn't play that well, Kelleher did, and there was some questions of like, can this guy, are we going to get a good price for him? Is he ready to be a number 1? And I think this last spell of him being our number 1 has really been impressive. Credit to him for kind of regaining his form and becoming a much better goalkeeper for us. I think it's a clear thing that Alisson is our number 1. You just say, hey, we'd love to have you here. We'll give you more money. But if you do want to seek out to play more football and become a number 1 for a Premier League club, I don't think they'll be locking the doors and locking him inside. I think they'll be open to selling him, knowing that they can get a pretty good fee for him. I think whoever comes knocking, I mean, he's going to be you're in negotiations for Kelleher. You can say, hey, we want a bigger sum because you're asking for your number 1 goalkeeper. That's kind of leverage that Liverpool can have when in negotiations for that. And 2, when you look at I'm looking at this also from the business side of things and making money and selling off players. If you look across our squad, I mean, we do have to make some money, and that is part of our business. And Kelleher is the top, earning player you think we would sell, unless, the Luis Diaz stuff, if you believe that, and other stuff. But by and large, this is kind of the most known, most realistic, I think, possibility of someone leaving is Kelleher, if another club is interested. And then you just try to capitalize on that as much as you can. And then just make sure you bring in a number 2 that, again, it's a clear understanding that you are brought in to be our number 2. Like when Adrian came in, it was known that he was going to be our number 2 goalkeeper. That's why he was brought in. Of course, he had to play a little bit more that season, I think the 1920 season, because Alisson did get hurt. And so maybe you hopefully this time around get a better goalkeeper, or if you trust one of the younger guys to come in, one of the academy kids. I don't know too much about our options there, but you just you just plan for that as well. And I think in a professional sense, you just respect Kelleher's wishes if he does want to leave and seek out more playing time, because he's deserved it. I mean, we can't speak highly enough of what he's done. I mean, coming in for the best goalkeeper in the world and performing, just like, more, I think, above all our expectations when we first think of a backup goalkeeper. I mean, he's still only 25 years old, and for goalkeepers, that's not their prime years yet. That he's still got to hit that, and he's still, got a lot to improve, or a lot to learn, from being a week in, week out starter. And so, it really is a a blessing that we've had him in our team, and it's just been, that's like the perfect situation which you want as a club, is your number 2 goalkeeper comes through your system. You don't have to buy someone who's going to kind of you have to convince them to be your number 2 and sit on the bench. You have a young kid who's been in the system for a while, comes up through it, and recognize that there's a hierarchy to, as to the position. We bring in Allison, he's the main guy, and then you come in as a youth player, and you just kind of appreciate any minutes you get, right? You're not complaining about, oh man, I want to play more. You understand that you are the number 2. And now Kelleher might be getting to a point where, okay, I've played a lot. I certainly think I'm capable of becoming number 1 somewhere else. So then you kind of test those waters and say, hey, I think I'm ready. I'm ready to take that next step. And so it's going to come down to Kelleher. I think Liverpool in all cases will try to keep him around. I don't, if there's any negotiation with the salary and stuff, we'll see if there's anything with that. But it's largely going to come down if Kelleher wants to seek out, a number 1 spot elsewhere, and definitely in the Premier League as well. You're muted, Steve.
It is one of those that's just like, I've seen this swap Kelleher with Leno. Why would Leno go for starting for a Premier League team to go and back up a Premier League keeper? I don't understand that one myself. Paul mentioned about Diaz and the hoopla around his. It's just he's unhappy with his wages. I don't blame him. He's on 75 grand a week. Kelleher's only on 10. I know we do laugh about that and like 10 grand a week. Geez, we all love to be on that. But when you have Adrian who's on 60 grand a week, it kind of puts things into perspective. But that's Kelleher. I don't want him to leave, but as an Irishman, if I want him to kick on and become the keeper that I know he can be, I know he has to leave. And unless they're going to keep him around and increase his wage and give him increased game time in the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup, I don't. And like, if Allison is going to continue with these injuries, maybe it might be a conversation in a year or two that Allison is let go and maybe not renewed or sold or whatever it may be. That if his injuries continue, and that's obviously Michael Edwards and Richard Hughes' decision and the new manager's decision in 2 or 3 years' time, and that's wishful thinking at the moment, but it is one of them. But before we move on to the next topic, make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already, and make sure you have your notifications on for all future streams and videos. We'll be live again later on this evening from 2 a.m. UK time or 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for our Star Stripes and Anfield night stream, and then we'll be live again tomorrow again from 7:30 UK time for our pre-game stream, so make sure you can stick around for that as well. And yeah, Paul De Gea is a free agent. I still wouldn't sign him. To be perfectly honest, I still wouldn't sign him. And we do have a lot of promising young keepers. Pitaluga, who I'm going to be seeing in a couple of weeks when he comes to my hometown where he's playing for Shamrock Rovers, so it'll be good. But yeah, it's one of them. It'll be sad to see him go. I don't want him to go, but I'd understand it if he did. It's one of them. It's kind of like Luis Diaz, to be honest with you. But here's hoping neither of them leave. But we do need to buy to sell. That is the model, unless Edwards and Hughes unearth some diamonds out of nowhere. But we're going to move on to one of those diamonds that there is currently at the moment that we may be interested in, maybe getting and maybe interested in, is Willian Pacho, who plays currently as a centre-back, a left-footed centre-back. Paul, you'll love this. Left-footed centre-back for Eintracht Frankfurt at the moment. He's 6'1". He is 22 years old. Big dude, about 90 kgs, a strong physical force. The only thing that worries me is his aerial ability, although he's young, that can improve. Carter, I'll come to yourself first on this one. It's meant to be about 50 to 60 million euros. Realistically, him as a player, 6'1", left-sided centre back, can very well fit into that. If we do go the 3 at the back, could very easily fit into that particular role. He's left-footed, as Paul does mention quite a lot. We need some more left-footers in the squad. We can't all be all right-footers, and I do agree with him that there needs to be a balance. William Pacho himself, for the 40 million to 60 million euro range, do you feel like he is somebody that we would need to be interested in, and as Who Knew 22 mentions here, is less injury prone than Kanata as well? As you mentioned earlier on, you had that take that everyone the only one that I had an issue with was you saying that we should sign Marcus Rashford, and I can't get on board with that one. I'm all for, you're definitely on a wind up with that one. I can't believe that one at all, but I understand the Diaz one. I understand the Gordon one, and it's my own prejudice against Anthony Gordon. But Marcus Rashford, man, we'll not get into that because I don't want any ill fate towards you for that take. But Pacho himself, is this somebody that we should be interested in, or do you think that maybe it'll be somebody that more so fits a profile of, as Paul mentions here, an Inacio, a Piero Hincapié, or is this possibly like one of those Edwards flies under the radar signings that could come very good for us?
I think this is almost like flying over the radar. I think for the amount of money that we're spending, this guy should be like I think you've put him on the show before, like Lenny Euro, the guy who's like 18, 19, and every like of those charts you see, he's in the top right corner, like highest aerial win rate. And I just think this is for someone who's like this is too much money. This is because Frankfurt sold Kolo Muani for like £100 million. This is their new benchmark. They'd obviously argue he's at least half as good as him. So I think this is probably more agent talk. Like, I don't think we spend this much money on him. And I definitely think, in the way that I said, like Rashford, I think there's definitely someone who's got an elite skill set, who's out there, who's maybe underperforming, who's maybe in a team that doesn't let them fully show it, that we'd be able to go out and get for way less money. So I think this is probably more paper talk, to be honest.
Yeah, possibly could be just paper talk. And it's an interesting one, Kings, because as we mentioned, 6'1", doesn't have the best aerial ability. He's only in about the 50th percentile of aerial dual wins. And then you compare that to the likes of Kwanzaa, Konate, and Virgil van Dijk, who are in the 99th percentile of aerial dual wins. And it is so. You mentioned before the stream started that you haven't watched much of them, but yeah, I did give you the stats and everything prior to that too, just to have a quick look and a quick browse. Of your first impressions, what do you think of him so far? I know you might not have watched him all that.
Looking at the stats and everything I've read about him, I think, well, is he maybe overpriced? As Carter was saying, it's a lot of money potentially, and I can understand why Frankfurt are saying, well, this is where we want the money to be. But it's like, if one thing has taught me, especially with Edwards now back at the club, in his first time when he was doing the transfers, etc., if it's one thing he's taught me is probably 99% of the names that are out there that Liverpool are interested in, there'll be nothing of the sort. And that if they're going to buy a centre-back, they will buy somebody probably that we just go, well, I didn't see that one coming, because they're very good at doing their homework behind the scenes. And I just feel that it's probably just a smokescreen. It'll probably agent talk, trying to big him up and then get the price up a little bit. For his age, yes, he can improve, and he could go on to have a fantastic career at Liverpool or a team like that. Whether Liverpool are going to sign him, I don't believe they are. I just feel that it's probably just put out there, like we've seen most summers. Probably get linked with 200 players over a summer, and they'll sign 2 that we didn't even know of. And it's just like, well, to me, it's probably not going to happen anyway. So I'm not getting too deep thinking about him coming in, because I can't see it happening personally.
Yeah, I know Paul. He is genuinely serious. I asked him, is he on a wind up? He's genuinely serious. You can have that conversation with him in the group chat. I'm not going to get into it here because I just blow a fucking gasket. Like, Carter, you do have some mad takes, man, but I really do respect a lot of them. I'm like, the balls on this dude to be saying this in the Liverpool chat. I'm like, he's a braver man than me.
He's just a good player. Like I think Liverpool, the one thing, sorry to interrupt, but I think the one thing that I would like us to do is go and sign a rival's top player. Like when Man United signed Van Persie, that's what I want to do.
Player. The funny thing.
He is kind of their best player. He's like him and Bruno.
Is their best player. Like
yeah, but they hate both of them. So they think they're both equally rubbish. All the United fans both think they're terrible. So I just love to go and sign him or Saka or Rice. That's just one thing that's on my bucket list for supporting Liverpool.
Yeah, I'd agree with you if you were signing him 3 years ago. But as we mentioned, and I think I said it to you, that you said that it's the United rot And I said, yeah, but how are you going to now filter out 7 years of that rot? If this was 3 or 4 years ago, 100% I'd be on board with it. I'd be like, yeah, fuck United. We're at the height of our power now. Let's go sign their star boy. 100% agree with you. But I just think now, as if it was this summer, I'd avoid him. I'd avoid him like the plague. Him and Bruno Fernandes. I'd avoid both like the plague, purely because there's so much rot in there now. It can't be helped. But if this was 4 years ago, 100% on board with you. Absolutely no question about it. But it's just, I just think now is probably the wrong time myself.
Stephen, just before we move on, can I just come back at Steve in the chat saying about Edwards isn't buying no more. He's not in charge of doing that. And it's like, I understand what he's saying. My point was, with him and Richard Hughes and a new manager, behind the scenes, they're so good with transfers. He was very good with transfers before, and he's still going to be in the mix, even though he's higher up the chain now. He's still going to have a say what Richard Hughes wants to do, and obviously Barry Hunter, one of the chief scouts, etc., and the new manager. They're all going to have a say in it. But I was just pointing out, with him there and this new team behind the scenes, they're probably looking at players we've never even considered yet. And that was my point with it. It's not necessarily he's doing the signings anymore, but yeah, I just wanted to clarify that for him.
No, that's completely fine. I agree with you. So while Edwards is there in a back office role, it still doesn't mean what he's going to keep his little black book of contacts away from Richard Hughes. Like, of course he's not. He's going to help him out completely. So while Edwards might not be the guy signing on the dotted line, he's still going to be massively influential in every one of the signings, and you'd have to be silly to disagree with that. It is one of them. Race, I don't think I came to you yet on this in regards to Pacho himself. 6'1", big guy, but lacking in the air, and that was a bit of a worry when Endo came over as well. But we've seen he's actually quite good in the air, and we've seen it with Diogo Jota as well. It's not about the size, and you know yourself from watching basketball as well. Dennis Rodman wasn't the biggest dude either, but his positioning and his timing is what made him one of the best rebounders. Similarly to how you getting your head on a ball, Diogo Jota could be surrounded by 6'4" guys, but he'll still get to the ball first in the air. If we were to sign him, would his lack of aerial duel wins worry you, being inserted into a back line that is known for being unbeatable in the air?
Yeah, you made a good point. I mean, all of the center backs we've thrown out there this year have excelled in the air. I think like all the 5 that we've thrown out I remember one stat that like they're all in the top something percentile of winning aerial duels. So yeah, that's been a big strength for us. So to bring in a player that isn't strong in aerial duels would be somewhat of a concern. But as you mentioned, it's all about positioning. It's all about how you use your body to box out players and stuff. And Pacho, he's looks like a physical guy, athletic, and can do all those things. And you just wonder, as a younger player, is that a teachable thing? Is that something you can really get him to improve on? And I think it would be. And if you look at the price as well, I mean, that's just the price that players are going for these days. I think any promising, player in a position, I mean, it's going to command a high fee. I mean, you look at transfers, I mean, the prices are just ridiculous these days. But whether we pay that or not, it's honestly a question. I mean, for me, it's just, the manager we bring in and what their philosophy is. If it's Amorim, are we going to play 3 at the back? Is that what we're going to do? So I think either way, center back is on our list of purchases this summer, just given the depth concerns that we have, and Matip, him possibly even a free this summer. Gomez maybe being more of that kind of swing right back, left back cover, I mean, yes, he can still play center back, but I think he's shown this season his best kind of role in the club, just be, like you said, that Swiss Army knife, of just playing wherever he's needed. And so having a true natural center back, I think, is definitely on our list of purchases this summer. But Pacho, it's I don't have any too strong opinions on him. Just looking at a brief overview of the player, bringing another young player to our room. Of course, Kanate, he's a couple of years older now. He's like 24, 25. Kwanzaa, making an impression this season, still a younger player. That would be certainly a good sign. I just wonder if that other center back option we buy this summer is a more experienced player, just given just given a more secure option, especially if we're going to play 3 at the back in kind of a new system. And if Amorim wants to bring in a player he's comfortable with. He brings over, you know, like Inacio from, you know, Sporting. You know, is that something he wants to do? There's a lot of, you know, just a lot of different variables here with transfers and whatnot. And I think, you know, with all these rumors and paper talk and stuff, it's really, you know, it's hard to really nail on any concrete links because we're really waiting for a manager to come in and see what his philosophy is. So it's hard to really predict. But I still, like I said, I still think a center back is on the table for this summer. Muted. There you go.
There you go. I'm back now. I think
Yeah.
there's a bit of a delay there. My Wi-Fi kind of went down a wee little bit. It's for any of those who are interested, Barcelona are currently 1-0 up against PSG, and Borussia Dortmund and Atletico are still 0-0, just about 25 minutes gone in the games. That's hilarious. PSG, huh? Guess you can't buy success unless you're City and you actually go and actually cheat. But is what it is. So yeah, Hero mentioned in here, can we bid for Palmer? Not unless you're going to hand them £200 million, unfortunately. That's what it's going to take for them to part with him. Speaking of Chelsea, selling a hotel, Todd Bowley, who owns Chelsea, selling a hotel to himself to adhere to FFP is the funniest thing I've seen all week. But we've talked about Pacho now, and obviously one of the other things that we need to worry about now, just as the last topic, before we get into it though, please do make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Make sure that your notifications are on for all future streams and videos. We're live again from 2 a.m. UK time or 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for our Stars, Stripes and Anfield Nights. Or we will also be live again tomorrow for our pre-game stream from the 7:30 UK time as well, before we go and face Atalanta, where Liverpool will be going through to the Europa League next round. You can mark my words on that. And you can come and hit me if I'm wrong, but I'm not going to be wrong. Last time we were there, we scored 5. Atalanta were 2 goals up and gave away a 2-goal lead during the week. They will not sit on their laurels. They will come at us. And
they played on, they played on Monday too, right? They played yesterday.
Yeah, they
kind
played
of
yesterday.
A quick turnaround. I feel like that's like
massively quick turnaround. But then we played Sunday, and we have to travel. So much of a muchness, the way that I look at it. But we are moving on to the business end of the season with 4 game weeks left, or 5 game weeks, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38. Yeah, 5 game weeks left, in which we have 6 games because Liverpool have a double game week this week. We have Fulham and Everton both away, which will be difficult if we play the same way as we did against Palace, but we also have Atalanta away midweek, which would be even more difficult if we play the same way as we did against Palace. But one thing that we have is players coming back. We have Diogo Jota coming back, we have Trent coming back, we have Alisson that's back now as well. However, there was a casualty, and that was Conor Bradley, who is apparently out for the next 3 to 4 weeks with an ankle injury that he sustained in the Palace game. Given that Trent quite literally was on the cusp of coming back, Kings, you don't like to say it, but could there have been a better time for an injury to happen to Conor Bradley?
I've got to be fair, we've been extremely lucky that Trent was there on the bench, ready anyway to take his place, because just when he first came in, obviously it was slightly unknown, that we were just like, yeah, we've maybe heard good things, the reserves, etc., youngsters. And he's come in, he's been absolutely fantastic. Give him credit, he's been brilliant. And then I watched, obviously, the way he injured his ankle, and it was like not the best, obviously, for the team. Very sad for him, so young, getting really into the team like this, and then all of a sudden this happens to him. Thankfully, it's only a few weeks, really, instead of anything too bad. But yes, we're very lucky that we've got an experienced defender, come midfielder nowadays, I suppose. But Trent being back is absolutely crucial. And I know we talked about it earlier, about people wanting to sell, but having Robbo and Trent back, and just maybe finding a bit more balance in the game, moving forward and creating extra. He'll be invaluable in the next few weeks now, I would imagine. Just spraying the ball around like he does. He does it sometimes so casually that you think, he's walking along kind of almost at the back end of the pitch, and he just pings a ball over perfectly to whoever he needs to be. And you forget how good he is. I suppose just having him back now at this time could be crucial, even if we have gift-wrapped the defeat from Palace with gift wrap City, an advantage in the. I just think he'll be crucial for us in the next few weeks.
Yeah, completely agree with you. He is going to be crucial. And one thing that I would actually propose, Carter, is if we were to go and play Trent as a right back and maybe try and take a leaf out of last season where Trent came back in and all of a sudden we made a quick change and allowed Trent to invert. And we ended up having to play a back three and allowing Trent to move in field. And it really, really, really worked out well. With Endo kind of looking a slight bit leggy, would you be opposed to a back four of Gomez as left back, then Virgil, Konate or Kwanzaa, and then Trent, and allowing Trent to invert, leaving us with three centre backs as our back three, allowing Endo to have some leeway beside him and Trent to be that deep lying playmaker, still allows both Jones, Szoboszlai, Elliott, and McAllister to push further up and have that box in midfield and overload again. It seems like we've been missing a little bit of that so far since Trent's been out, isn't it?
Honestly, when you were saying the Robertson thing at the start, I get the intensity was there and he did have some good things. But I think on the weekend, and this is going to be really harsh, I think Robertson does all the extra stuff really well. But the little things, like, I don't think he suits us now. I think we're much better with Gomez there. I think we have too many attackers who can't keep the ball. And I think Robertson's a guy who takes risks and we don't need... if we're 1-0 down with 10 minutes to go, put him on. But I think in some games, we need to keep the ball more. We need to pass teams a bit more to death. And I think that would suit us a lot more. And also, with you saying Endo, I mean, if we play a back three and have Trent inverting, do we need Endo to play? Can we not play maybe McAllister there? Can we not play McAllister and Trent? If we're going to Everton, if we're going to Fulham, if we're playing these teams with big centre halves who are going to sit deep, maybe it's better to have those guys, and we probably got more chance of keeping the ball, be more solid defensively. So I think I would probably do that. And I think a big thing for us is like with your kind of basketball reference with like Dennis Rodman, Trent is the Steph Curry of like right backs. Trent is our ace in the hole. Other teams have got Mbappe, they've got Kevin De Bruyne in midfield. But for us, no one's got Van Dijk, no one's got Trent, and no one's got Alisson. And this is the first time for ages we've had all three of them back. And I think they're the three most important players for us now. So this is, if we're ever going to win 6 games in a row and come back against Atalanta, it's with those 3 guys.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. Look, the effort is a big thing with me, and Andy Robertson really showed like he was the only one that had a bit of heart in that pitch. But I do understand what you're saying, and I completely agree with your point as well about if we're going to invert Trent, move McAllister back to have like 2 deep lying playmakers, so to speak. I just think we can't move McAllister back purely from how good he's been further forward. That would be my only argument against it. But I get what you mean. I'd nearly let Jones come back and sit beside Trent and allow McAllister and Elliott to move up front and have our creators more further forward. And then Trent that can fire shit over the top. But there's so much that we could do with it. Race, with Conor Bradley now being down, possibly for the rest of the season, 3 to 4 weeks is all that's really left in the season at this point, because it ends in May. Is this a situation where you can see us rallying the troops and the leaders of the team, Mohamed Salah, Alisson, Van Dijk, Trent, the leaders, the captains, and the leadership group, so to speak? Is this where we're like, these guys are going to drag us through, and Trent coming back at this particular moment is probably a blessing in disguise, realistically, for the end of the season?
Yeah, I definitely think we needed a guy like Trent to get back on our side. I think one of the problems we had, at least in this game against Crystal Palace, and I can't remember much about Atalanta, but the way we were just playing, with loads of possession, we were just kind of, doing the short passes, trying to break them down that way. And I don't think there was anyone really trying to be ambitious with their passes, going over the top, pinging the ball out wide and stuff. And all credit to Crystal Palace for how they set up, and they were just, tremendous defensively. But it seemed like we didn't really have much of that threat that we're kind of accustomed to, and that was, and partly due to Trent not being in the side and being that one player they can do it. And so I think, as you mentioned last season, when we towards the end of last season, when Trent started being more inverted role, and that's when our form really ticked up, and we won, pretty much every single game down the stretch last season, bar for I think a draw or two there. But I think this is just what we needed, and we knew this was coming too with Trent coming back from injury. Yes, it's unfortunate that Connor Bradley has sustained his injury, but I also think Bradley too was kind of struggling a little bit in the last couple games as well. I think his form wasn't that good. I thought that it was going to be a case of he's kind of overextended his run. He was that okay, now he's going to hit that wall, and now he's going to kind of struggle a little bit. So I think it's kind of the perfect storm. And yes, like I said, unfortunate that he got the injury, but I think his time on the side was about to run out anyway. I think Trent was going to come back in either way. Well, I don't think he was going to come in directly as a number 6 as an Endo replacement. I think we're going to stick him in that right back spot because I think you don't want to change things too much. But given Endo kind of falling out of form a little bit, I agree. I know I'm with Carter too. Like, is there really need for Endo if you do bring Trent into the side? If you're playing against teams that are going to sit deeper, where you're not going to have as much defensive duty. Like I think this Thursday, I think you start Trent, and I don't think you start Endo. I think you go McAllister, Jones, and Soboslai because you're going for goals. You're going for it, so you're not gonna we don't need Endo in there. It's going to be Trent. Put him in that role. Let him ping the passes, whatnot, and just get after it. And so and then against the other teams you play in the league as well that are going to sit deep. Although you don't want to be naive, and then a team gets a counter the other way, and then you're left empty, and then we're down 1-0 again. You don't want to be too naive in that you still have a role for Endo and whatnot. But I think you are more conscious about, okay, we have Trent, we have that guy that can fill in this position, can kind of play inverted and get back to what we were doing, towards the end of last season and maybe earlier this season as well. Just, giving him the freedom to create and be that, that outlet. Because I think, you're getting to the end of the season, all these players are just kind of, mentally fatigued, maybe physically as well. We've been in this title race for a long time. It just wears on you. That's why it's so hard to win the league, in a run-in like this. And City have mastered it, just because they have a ridiculous depth of squad and players, and, they've been through it. So it's Arsenal found that out last year, and maybe they're going to start to see this year again. It's a tough gig. And so I think this is the kind of the refresher we needed with Trent coming back in. Jota as well up top, being a fresh attacker. I mean, these guys have been excited. They've been chomping at the bit. They're at the sidelines and they see that we're in a title race. Like, oh man, I can't wait. Get me back in there. I can't wait to get back. So hopefully this is kind of the extra motivation that we need, the extra kick on, to really to get into it. And that's what I hope. And so just Trent coming back is really excited to see. I like I said, I think he'll start on Thursday. So I'm just really excited to see him back.
Yeah, as am I. And I think, as you said about Atalanta on Thursday, I don't want to see another performance like Palace. I don't care if we lose. I don't want to see another performance like Palace. And that just looked lifeless. I would rather we lose every game for the end of the season, but go down swinging, than hit the finish line limping. We've nothing to lose. Nobody expects us to win another trophy for the rest of the season. We have nothing to lose. Atalanta have everything to lose. We are now the underdogs. We have nothing to lose. City are expected to win every game. Arsenal are expected to win every game. We want to win every game, but we're not expected to do it. People in our chat were saying, let's just secure top 4. We're 2 points off the top of the Premier League with 6 games to go. I don't see where you get that logic myself. I do not want to see another performance like Palace myself. Let's just go for it. Play 5 up front if we have to, and we'll concede 5, we'll score 6. I don't care. Win however we can, and that's the way that we look forward to it. But we are going to finish it up there, guys, for this evening. Jen, thank you so much for your £2.99. It's always appreciated, as always. If we don't say it enough, we absolutely adore it. Thank you so much. And make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already for your and make sure your notifications are on so that you never miss out on the stream. We'll be live again later on tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 2 a.m. UK time for Star Strikes and Anfield Nights, and we'll be back again tomorrow for our pre-game stream at 7:30 p.m. UK time. So make sure you have your notifications on so that you never miss out about that. Thank you guys so much for joining us. For myself, Kings, Carter, and Race, we very much did appreciate those trolls attempting to rattle us at the start. Didn't rattle me, but it is what it is. We'll come back next time with Carter's take on why Marcus Rashford would be a great signing for Liverpool. That's the next hot take that we'll have. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure, and we will see you guys again soon. Bye-bye.